All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started here. We have two almost back-to-back sessions. We have one now. And then we have one after dinner. So for those who were clamoring for a CE-heavy day, today's the day. So, yeah, about time. I know, right? And Michael Allen wanted to go till midnight, I think, tonight. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ryan. Ryan, as most of you know, we've introduced him already. Ryan is an expert data analyst and is especially an expert within the dental data analysis world. I wanted to share I don't even know what the right phrase is, but because we watched the Super Bowl this week, I wanted to share this quote. Have you guys seen this yet? Matt, have you seen this? A.J. Brown said, and this is really cool because this is pertinent, I think, to today's presentation, to Ryan's presentation. He said, after a few days, I've had time to reflect on being a champion. I tried to feel how everyone made it seem to be a champion. And unfortunately, it was short-lived. 2 days, to be exact. LOL. I've never been a champion at the highest level before, but I thought my hard work would be justified by winning it all. It wasn't. My thrill for this game comes from when I dominate. It's the hunt that does it for me. It's when the DB drops his head and surrenders because he can't hang with me, more or less. I'm paraphrasing. The intense battles, early mornings, late nights, sacrifices. I love putting smiles on people's faces, don't get me wrong. But it just wasn't what I thought it would be. It's the journey that I love the most, back to work. So oftentimes we look at the end or towards the destination as if we just got to put our head down and grind until we get there. But this, A.J. Brown won the Super Bowl. Spent his whole life dream getting there. Now he said this is a pretty good realization of what happened. So Ryan today is going to talk about Basecamp to Summit. He's going to talk about the journey and ways that you can get wins and joys along that journey. Without further ado, Ryan Passey.
Awesome. I appreciate the intro, Jared. Thank you very much. Just before I get started, last year at the Dental Money Summit, they had a great speaker there called the Iron Cowboy. I don't know if any of you are familiar with James Lawrence, but he had a great story that he shared about being able to one day in his massive journey of doing all these triathlons back to back Ironmans, he got to work with a handicapped kid. He got to take the handicapped kid along with the swim, the bike, the run, and just that it made him really grateful because he changed his attitude, that he got to wake up every morning and do the things that he loved because this young kid didn't have the chance to do that. So since that day, I've implemented a gratitude practice into my life, tried to make sure I spend time every day giving great gratitude for the things I have in my life. So I call them my got-tos and my get-tos. My get-tos are in the morning. I get to wake up. I get to go to work with my best friends. I get to be Annalee's husband, all those kind of things. So I go through that in my mind. And then at the end of the night, I do my got-tos. Today I got to come to Nicaragua and hang out with some amazing people. So before I start today, I just want to express my gratitude for everybody who's here today. To our amazing speakers, the dentist advisors, we love you guys. Your family. We've been doing this 3 years in a row with you guys, and just really appreciate what you bring, the value you bring to our members. Mark Costas, what a great human being. I love Mark. Got a chance to go spend time in Africa with Mark, and he's just been just an amazing friend, and so grateful for what he's done. His book was the first dental book I read when I got into the profession. It was like my first week into dentistry. Jared and Dan gave me the Burkhart report, dental intel and a book called Pillars of Dental Success by Mark Costas. So super surreal for me to work with Mark and get the chance to be his friend and work with him on that level. Smile Trend, we're super excited for your presentation tonight. We've made changes in our practice based on what you guys are doing, and so we're super excited that you're here. And yeah, well, we'll see, but yeah, we appreciate you guys being here and are super looking forward to what we'll hear tonight. Buck and Becky, Jared got the blessing of being mentored by Buck. I think Dan and I have kind of adopted Buck as a mentor as well. Like you're never in a room with Buck where you're not smiling or learning something new, and just he's fantastic. And so we love you, Buck, and Becky. If you think Buck's great, Becky's even better, so. And just to you guys here, our Colorado people, love you guys. Got to spend time in Africa with you guys, some of our favorite people. Just love you. And again, you spend time in Africa, your family, and so we really appreciate you. Our Billings crew, we love the Ericksons, and we love Jeff and Nicole. We're so glad you're here with us today, and appreciate you guys being here. We've implemented some things just because of Jeff. I don't know that he's aware of that, but in our business, and some of our Basecamp models are based off of some of the things that came out of Montana, and the Ericksons are just such great people. And the Dillies, what can you say about the Dillies? Brian's OG. He's one of the original gangsters here, and we love Brian and Nikki and are so grateful for them. So just want to express my gratitude for all of you and being here. Again, our spouses, we love you guys and are so grateful for you. So my topic today is again, from Basecamp to Summit, navigating the peaks of leadership excellence. So a lot of this came from, again, the dentist advisors. They're my inspiration. So I listened to a podcast a few weeks back that talked about what dentists wish they had learned at dental school but didn't, and recognize that we provide a lot of these things for dental practices on a leadership basis. And so I'm not sure that sometimes we do a really good job of explaining exactly how we work with dental offices and the things that we provide on a leadership basis. So tonight's program is based on how we help resolve some of these pain points for dentists. We help them with leadership, help them with running a business, understanding profit and loss, and those kind of things. So a little bit about me. You guys kind of know a little bit about me professionally. So one of the co-founders of EA, and I work as the executive director of DLF. I have no clinical skills. That's why I get to have all the fun jobs when we're in Africa. I get to work with relationships and work with our partners over there in Africa. And so it's kind of what I do. I'm the numbers guy behind the scenes. A lot of the times I get the blessing of working with dental professionals, dentists, and their offices in helping them make good data-driven decisions, help implement leadership programs, help implement the Elevation Association operating system with dentists. So that's me. My background is not dentistry, although I think we're getting to the point where I can't say that anymore. We've been doing this about 5 years. And so I'm starting to feel like a dental professional somewhat. So in the trenches every day with Jared and Dan at the office, and then get to work with the amazing dentists there. So my background is retail. I spent almost 30 years in retail management, last 10 years as an executive level manager, overseeing 30 stores and about 600 employees. We did around $60 million a year in revenue. And so my job was to kind of oversee the operations of the 30 locations, the teams, the staffs, look at the data, do weekly reviews with regional supervisors, those kind of things. And so that's my background. I'm very data heavy, looking at numbers, spreadsheets, analytics, those kind of things, and then being able to interpret that and make good decisions based on those numbers. Little bit about me personally. I am married to Analia, who's one of the most beautiful women on the planet, inside and out. I feel like you guys got gypped a little bit this week because she got hurt and hasn't been around a lot, but just a fantastic human being. I'm so blessed to be her husband. Jared's really good about like sharing movie clips that kind of tell his story. And, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie The Other Guys, where Will Ferrell's married to Eva Mendes, and Marky Mark's like, who is she? Who is this? It's my wife. No, really, like, who is she? It's my wife. No, really, like, who is this? The old ball and chain, right? Like, the old ball and chain. Like, Annalee is a 10. I'm a 4.5 on a good day, right? All cylinders firing. I'm a 4.5. We have 2 beautiful daughters. Our youngest, Amanda, is our adrenaline junkie. So this is her speed flying at about age 16. She now flies helicopters up in Alaska, doing heli-ski right now in Cordova, dropping off some of the world's greatest skiers on remote backcountry mountains in a helicopter. So our oldest, Janelle, she is a star athlete. She won 4 district championships her senior year running. So she went on to BYU, ran at the cross country Division I there in BYU, continues to run now. She's back into like half marathons and doing that. She's with her husband, Ben. And about 4.5 years ago, I got promoted from dad to grandpa, or abuelo, bello at our house. So it's fantastic. For those of you who haven't had that experience yet, being grandpa is awesome. So we love little Reese. So Annalee and I know a little bit about summiting peaks. So this talk today is called Basecamp to Peak, Basecamp to Summit. And Annalee and I, since the kids moved out, kind of like Buck and Becky, we had to find some things that we really enjoyed doing together. And one of these things was backpacking. So anywhere from June to the end of October, almost every weekend, we are at a different lake in our backpacking tent with just us and the mountain goats and probably not another soul for 5 or 10 miles. So we spend a lot of time in the mountains. These are some of the places we've been to in the past year or so. You'll see kind of a theme in these pictures. It's the Annalee is there in my picture. It's not that I like to take pictures of my wife at lakes. It's just that when I get there, she's already there. So it's kind of like, waiting patiently for me to show up. So, yeah. So I'm kind of excited that maybe she'll be a little slower this year, but I don't know. Maybe. But we love getting out. We love you learn so much when you're hiking. Like the challenging, it's like Jared said, it's the journey that you kind of learn. And then at the end of these hikes, there's always some spectacular, beautiful location and place where we can kind of relax, unwind for a couple days, and just, they're almost like sacred spots, right? Where you get up there and just have them to yourself. And there's so many lessons that you learn along the way of summiting a peak, putting forth some effort, moving forward, those kind of things. So just ties in it. Sir Edmund Hillary, which was one of the first Westerners to summit Mount Everest, said it's not the mountains we conquer, but ourselves. And so I think in today's leadership training, it's that same thing. It's not the practice we conquer, but we develop these leadership skills and empower ourselves to be better dental professionals, better entrepreneurs, and better business owners. So again, what is Elevation Association? It's a community focused on helping dentists achieve 2 things, personal and professional goals. That's what we're all about, those 2 things. How do we do this? Exceptional CE experiences like today, humanitarian opportunities that we do through Africa. And then the third thing is practice optimization through data analytics. So that's where I'm going to spend my time today, is in that's that part of that. So again, we want to empower dentists to elevate your life and your practice, right? That's what we're all about. We have 3 focuses at EA, and Jared went over this. Our first one's life. So we've created a 8-step program for the Design Your Life Summit. So there's 8 principles that go along with designing your life. Last year in El Salvador, this is what we focused on. was how to a couple design the ideal life, right? And again, part of these experiences isn't just to talk about it, but it's to come here and do those things, put them in practice. Come have a fun experience at a resort like Rancho Santana and work on developing your life plan, right? Leadership is the one we'll be talking about tonight. Again, we have 8-step framework for leadership with 8 components. Again, to help dentists become better entrepreneurs, better business owners, better practice managers. And legacy. This is Kilimanjaro. This is a thing we're working on our framework for that as we go to Africa. So again, working on building a lasting legacy. Jared mentioned we've taken a lot of the different components from Traction. That is a fabulous book on becoming a good entrepreneur and put them into a dentist practice. So today we'll be focused on these 8 milestones is what we call them, the framework for becoming a good leader within your practice. So from discovering the dream, establishing a baseline, setting your true north, targets and waypoints, mapping out your marketing, roles and responsibilities, keeping your team fired up, and collaboration. So we'll be using some examples today from some of our amazing dentists. So, and how they have implemented some of these strategies into their practice. We'll tell some of their stories and hopefully get some of the input from them as well. And then we'll go over some of the tools that Elevation Association provides for dentists and their practices. So we'll do these things, the principles, some examples, and then the tools. So number 1 is, the first principle is discover the dream. The panel talked about this a little bit yesterday, is like having a vision for your practice. How many of you in here, by raise of hand, have a written down 10-year vision of where you want your practice to be? Okay. It's really important to have a great vision so that you know what you're working towards. There's a great story, and those of you who know me know I love stories. This is the story of the London fire in 1666. So most of you are familiar. The Great London Fire burned down almost all of London. When the monarchy went back to rebuild the city, they wanted to build a beautiful city. So they hired an architect by the name of Sir Christopher Wren to build the St. Paul's Cathedral. He was a very famous architect that had built a lot of amazing cathedrals. And there's this great story about Sir Christopher Wren and these 3 bricklayers. So it says one day that he had gone out to inspect the building of the cathedral, and he ran into these 3 different types of workers. And he came to the first worker, and he seemed kind of frustrated, and kind of flustered, not in a great mood, and he was laying bricks. And he said, who are you and what are you doing? And he's like, I'm a bricklayer, and I'm laying brick. And I need to feed my family, so I'm here doing what needs to be done so that they can have food on the table. He's like, okay. Goes a little bit farther, he finds the next guy a little bit more engaged in his work, seems to be a little happier. And he's like, who are you and what are you doing? He's like, I'm a builder, and I'm building a wall. He's like, okay, cool. Comes to the third worker. The third worker's whistling while he works, happy to be there, super content. And he's like, hey, who are you and what are you doing? He's like, I'm a mason, and I'm building a cathedral to the Almighty. And so all 3 of these guys worked in the same place. They were all 3 bricklayers, but they lived in entirely different worlds, right? Because one understood the vision of what he was working on, while the other 2 were just kind of showing up and working. And so in a dental practice, you know, it's important to make sure you know, like, what's the cathedral? What are we trying to accomplish with what we're doing? Or are we just showing up every day laying bricks, right? Because after a time, if you don't have the blueprint, you don't have what you want to accomplish, you're not going to be working towards your goal. So the very first step when we work with a practice is to try to identify what is the cathedral? What does that look like? What's the blueprint? Like, how many days a week do you want to work? Do you want a partner? Do you want an associate? How many hygienists? What does that look like? How much revenue do you want to make a year? What days of the week are you open? How many vacations are you taking? Those kind of things to kind of discover and really blueprint what your practice wants to look like in 10 years. So that you guys show up and you know what you're working on. Your team knows what they're there building every day. Just like that bricklayer, right? I'm building a cathedral. I'm working towards the overall goal within the practice. So this is Dr. Leighton Jones. Some of you know Leighton. This is the first summit Leighton hasn't been here. He's an OG like Brian. They've been here since the beginning. Leighton was on the very first activity we did. Fantastic doc. When we met with Leighton had been in a place where he was kind of stagnant. He hadn't increased like revenue much for the last 5 years, was producing a little bit over $1 million a year, and really just was kind of, he related a lot to Jared's vision or story about trudging. Felt like he was at that point in his life where he was trudging. So after we started working with Leighton, we were like, what do you want? What's your vision for your practice? Where do you want to be 5, 10 years from now? And he's like, I really want a new practice. The building I'm in is old, it's outdated, and I want a partner that I can work with, that I like and trust. I want to have a similar setup to what Dan and Jared have at their practice. And I want to be producing $3 or $4 million a year. Like, this is what I want. So he mapped that out and then went to work. And after we got working with Leighton over the years, as you can see, this year he just opened up his new dental practice, new building with some additional retail space as well. So I think he's got 12 ops in this new building. And little over about 2 years ago, brought on Dr. Sam Schreiner, who they're in the process of becoming partners. Found somebody he loved to work with, shared the same values, the same vision. And so Leighton's gone from just over $1 million. He'll be between $3.5 and $4 million practice this year with his partner coming on board full time. So yeah. The old one had I think 8 ops. Like, it had a fair amount of ops. But this is his old building, Wicks Dental. You can see up there in the blue building, and then he built his new building all the way around. You can kind of see part of it there on that. But again, it started with coming up with what do you want to accomplish? Getting that written down. He had some direction where he wanted to go, and then work towards accomplishing that dream. And this has been only 5 years, less than 5 years, that he's really already got the practice, got the partner, and things happened quicker than he had anticipated once he started moving forward. Then those 10-year goal now is accomplished, and he's moving on to other things. So this is the power of having vision within your practice, is like, what are you working towards? This is the cathedral, right? Like, that's what I want. This is what I want here with my team. And he's taken more time off now than he used to. All those same things like Jared and Dan have implemented in the practice. This is Dr. Kip Jones. Kip had a little bit different vision. He's like, I don't want to grow. I actually want to work 1 day less a week, but I don't want to quit seeing my patients, and I don't want to quit making as much money as I'm making. So, we put together a strategy of how do we cut 1 day out of your week? And so once he did that, he actually started doing wisdom teeth the other 2 days and expanded his practice that way. But he was able to go from 4 days to 3 days a week, he actually increased his revenue, productions, and collections all during that time. But it was putting a plan in place and then working backwards to accomplish that goal. So, these are some of the tools that we use with the dental office to establish what's called a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, or the 10-year goal for your practice. So there's a questionnaire we have that we send out to kind of get the juices starting to flow towards putting this together. Because sometimes it's difficult to sit down and just be like, this is what I want my practice to look like in 10 years. The questionnaire is a great starting point to be like, here's some thoughts, like what kind of patients do you want, how many days a week you want to work, all those things. And then from there, we get a pretty good starting point to then refine and identify the blueprint of what you want your practice to look like. Jared.
I think one of the common tripping points on creating your BHAG is, and I had this as well, is I didn't want to state something and then start working towards it and end up that that's not what I wanted to do, which I think is the whole reason why you do create a BHAG. You create this 10-year vision, and I had a hard time knowing I didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time as far as my practice goes. And so I had to, that's part of the reason why we created Elevation Association, so I could basically hork ideas off of people, what they're doing, and I could just try to make that my own idea. But I didn't know what other people were doing. I wanted to know what the possibilities were. And so I wanted to create all these conversations and bring people into the same room where we could have these conversations. And so, and we've had some great conversations regarding BHAG already with some people here. And so, when we say create your BHAG, think about what you want it to be. I'm not sure if James is going to talk about it tonight in his presentation, but when I went to their course in Arizona, you talked about going through maybe ortho you thought might have been your BHAG. You were doing, a lot of stuff in Invisalign, kind of, this is what I'm going to do, and you got into it, and you realized this isn't where I want to go. I want to do something, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay to do that. I think it's good to do that. You're maybe weeding out some of these things that you thought maybe you wanted to do, and that's the whole point of the exercise. So some people can't do this part because they get caught up in it. I would say just find something, decide on something, start working towards it. And even if you're working out your plan, you may realize that may not be where you want to go. And it's okay to change and to pivot after you've created this BHAG, because that's what almost everybody does.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the stories later of like some of the guys after they did the BHAG were like, I don't even live in the right city. I don't even want to be here. I need to move somewhere else, right? Like, but it's going through this process of like, again, like trying to make sure you're not just showing up at work every day and laying bricks, but what are you really working towards? And it takes effort, takes time, takes some of that process to go through. It's an ongoing process. Our BHAG changes all the time, right? Like, and again, as you get around collaborating in these kind of groups, inspiration comes too, of like, and limitations sometimes fall away. Like I can do more than what I think I'm going to do. So it should be an ongoing process. But again, going through the process, the journey, doing these things is important to, again, work towards the goal you want to have. So again, this kind of helps identify, again, what kind of patients you want, what kind of practice you want to have, employees, time, money, those kind of things, just as a guideline for those, for your BHAG. So, all right, now that we know what peak we want to climb, right? What's the goal? Where do we want to go with our practice? The next step is, where am I starting from so that I can establish a good baseline and then move forward? Jared did a great job, I think, of talking about this principle on Tuesday, right? Like this is a perfect example of a baseline, right? is seeing where we're at with the dental practice, right? And being able to exactly know where you're starting from, because you can't get to where you want to go unless you know where you're starting from. So Brian Dilley, I hope all of you got some time to spend with Brian this week. Brian is one of my favorite people. I get to visit with Brian once a week. Yeah, he loves hugs. Yes. But Brian is extremely funny. Like, he has got a great sense of humor. And when we started to meet with Brian and talk about like, hey, let's establish a baseline. Let's take a look at like where you are and stuff. He came up with one of the greatest one-liners ever. He's like, okay, guys, I'm going to drop my drawers and show you what I'm working with, you know. But he was willing to be vulnerable and willing to like, put his guard down and say, I don't know what I don't know. This is where I'm at. And for me, that was a great teaching point as we work with dental offices, right? Like, people have to be a little vulnerable to do this step. And so I appreciate all the docs that are willing to be like, let's do a growth report. Let's see where I'm at and see how well I'm doing. Let's get my metrics, my baseline, and then from there we can make progress. So again, I love that one-liner from Brian, and I'm always reminded, like, hey, docs are being vulnerable at this time, so proceed with caution, but it's a great thing to start with, right? And Jared showed the dental colonoscopy, but I kind of like this as the dental DEXA scan, right? Especially since I was the one in the middle on that slide. I don't know. But again, getting a baseline for where your practice is currently sitting is important. Some of the tools we use, again, growth report. This goes through and shows where's the money in the couch cushions possibly, in hygiene, film, fees, exams, perio, unscheduled treatment. Like, what is the potential of your practice that you can do year after year after year? Again, the benchmark report, where do you rank nationally against other practices in the nation on some of these important metrics? What's your pricing? Every year we do an updated price for your zip code for each member of Elevation Association so that we make sure we give you the correct pricing for your zip code. Now, we don't dictate that you change your prices. That's up to you. But we at least provide the resource of, like, according to market value, this is kind of where you should be in your business. As a retail professional, we change thousands of prices every day. Like, you're probably unaware of that, but every day someone's job was to print off the new labels and go out and stick them on the shelves before anybody showed up. So, and it was constantly done. Supplies go up, costs go up, all those things. So it changes pricing. And dentists sometimes are very, because you guys have big hearts and want to do good in the world, I think sometimes you're reluctant to, like, price yourself correctly in the marketplace. Some of the dentists we work with, when we do a growth report, we've seen everything from the 6th percentile to the 90th percentile, right? We've had some docs, like, inherited the practice from their dads and just never increased the pricing. And so, again, just going through and being aware of, like, this is where you currently are, this is maybe where you should be, and getting a plan in place to move accordingly and within your core values. We're not going to dictate that. But pricing is a huge one. It's a big needle mover just to make sure you're priced right within your zip code. P&Ls. P&Ls are another thing that, again, a lot of dentists don't have a lot of background in reading P&Ls, understanding P&Ls, those kind of things. Just like the production side of things, there's benchmarks that we try to encourage docs to hit with different expenses, supplies, lab, employees, those kind of things, to give some guidelines on that. So, all right, principle number 3, setting your true north. So this is setting your core values. So now that we know where we want to go, we know where we're starting from, how do we move forward? What are our non-negotiables? What are things that we're not going to sway on, right? So there's this great story of a father teaching his son, the importance of value. And the story goes, the kid was out in the forest and he found this precious stone. And he comes back to his dad and he's like, "Dad, look at this awesome stone I found." And his dad recognized the son had found a stone of significant worth. And so he wanted to teach his son a lesson about value. And he said, "Here's what I want you to do." He's like, "I want you to take your stone, I want you to go into town, and I want you to show the baker. And when the baker asks you how much you want for your stone, I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to hold up 2 fingers. And then come back and tell me what he says." So a kid grabs a stone, he runs down to town, he goes to the bake shop, goes in, he shows the baker his stone. The baker's like, "Wow, that's an amazing stone. How much do you want for it?" And he goes, doesn't say a word. The baker says, $2. I'll take it. Kid grabs the stone, runs back up, reports to his dad. Hey, Dad, baker wants $2 for my stone. It's like, okay, son, I want you to take your stone. I want you to go to the merchant. I want you to show the merchant the stone. When the merchant says, how much is your stone worth? I don't want you to say anything, just hold up your 2 fingers. Then come back and tell me what the merchant says. Little boy goes in town, goes to the merchant, pulls out a stone. Merchant goes, wow, what a beautiful stone. How much do you want for it? Holds up his 2 fingers. $200. I'll take it. Kid grabs a stone, runs back to his dad. Dad, the merchant wants $200 for my stone. It's like, okay, now I want you to go into town and see the jeweler. And when you go to the jeweler and he asks you how much you want for a stone, hold up your 2 fingers. Boy runs down to town, shows the jeweler. Jeweler's like, oh my gosh, do you know what you have? How much do you want for it? He's like, $2,000. He's like, I'll pay you $2,000 today. Boy returns, tells his dad, man, the jeweler wanted $2,000 for my stone. And the dad was trying to teach the kid the importance of values, right? And not to have other people dictate what your value is. That it's up to you to establish what you're worth and what you believe in. And so I love this story, and I think core values are a really important part of running a good dental practice. It's part of building that culture within your practice, like how do we operate at Wood River Dental? How do we operate at Core Dental? How do we operate at Dilly Dental? Like, what are our non-negotiables? What does our team know that these are the things we believe in? These are the things we value, and these are the things that we hire, fire, reward, and review all of our employees around. This is what we're about. And so establishing those values at your practice, I think James said it yesterday, like if you don't establish, you still have core values, you still have culture at your practice, whether you're setting it or not, whether you let your employees dictate that or the previous owner or whatever it is. If you're not taking an active role of like, this is what we believe in here at my practice, then you're allowing someone else to set your value and not doing it yourself. So we use some cards to help go through a process of establishing what your core values could be. It's a great game. This is some of our doctor's core values. So these are Kurt's at Core Dental. We before me, the hit factor, honesty, integrity, and transparency. ABG, always be growing, all in, compassions, and results driven. So Kurt, why are these important to you, and what has that had on your practice establishing core values?
They've been everything, really, and they've changed. We started out with a couple of, for example, hold that. Awesome. Thank you. Better? So they've changed slightly from the beginning because we labeled it as a living document to begin with, and then we just saw some patterns happening in the practice that we knew, okay, this really is a core value. One of those examples would be we before me used to be family, and because family to me is everything. That's why I do everything. But before I knew it, we had a lot of, because we would try to recognize those core values and call them out in our team meetings, and we would get things like this. Oh, I just want to call out so-and-so. She represents really well the family core value because she stayed home all last week to take care of her family. And it just you could totally tell that we missed the mark there. And so I had to bring it back and say, look, I'm taking family off. I feel that that's more of a personal core value because that's why I do everything. But that's also why I don't miss work, is because I'm there to provide for my family. And so we came up with we before me. And that doesn't mean that we don't give days off for someone being sick, right? But we're trying to lay the foundation for people to don't be so selfish in the matter. And then the other ones, they're kind of self-explanatory, right? We want to be as transparent as we possibly can. We try to, we treatment plan that way. We treat that way. Always be growing. That's another one that I had to kind of we didn't relabel, but we had to redefine it in the practice because always be growing has a lot of different meanings. Yes, it can be growth in patient numbers. It can be growth in numbers of procedures that you give, but it could be just striving to read one more paragraph a day to better yourself. It's all encompassing. And so the thing I think I need to get better at really is not only recognizing the core values, but using them more on a daily basis, say in your weekly or monthly check-ins with staff, but also in the reviews, like Traction says, how's it, hire, fire, review, all around the core values. And I think we do a good job about that, but I think if we could even make that more of the focus, it would eliminate some of the issues that we do have.
Awesome. Great job establishing core values. So these are Ryan Brown's, the golden rule: balance, accountability, always do your best. Ryan's a pediatric dentist out of Prescott, Arizona. Runs a great business. And then Jared and Dan, I'll let you guys speak a little bit to your core values and at the practice.
Yeah, this is not an easy process, guys, to hash these out and find out what your core values are. This is not a 30-minute, like, jot some ideas down on a paper and bada bing, bada boom, you're done. It takes time. So we actually did this on a drive down to Moab. We had 7 hours of togetherness, and we decided to utilize that to figure these out. So I think we'll go every other one, Jared. I'll start off with teamwork makes the dream work. We stole this from Kip Jones. He had talked about, they have a placard of his core values in his office, and one of the ones that he had was teamwork makes the dream work, which I believe they stole from somebody else, but it's stealable, right? So, and this one's self-explanatory. If we're going to make our vision happen, everybody's going to need to work together. And so this is probably it's probably the most popular one in our office when we give core value recognition, core value reward that we do every week. They're not allowed to do the same one. You have to give them out until they're all gone, right? But this is almost always the first or second one that's awarded because I think it's one that resonates with all of our team members.
The only one that I want to touch on maybe 2 points. One, the bottom one, the Yoda effect. If you have anybody in your practice under the age of 30, they don't know who Yoda is. I found that out the hard way. Yoda was a hero of mine growing up, and sometimes when you hire people, you go through your core values, and you say, hey, one of our core values is Yoda effect, and you can tell when they get that blank stare on their face that they have no idea who Yoda is, and then you realize you're an old man and disappointed and a nerd. Marin says, thank you. But the one thing, with your core values, you hire, fire, you review, reward, and not just employees, but your partners. Well, who are your partners? I mentioned, we're partnered with Delta. And then part of the reason why this partnership is not working anymore because they go against our core values. Everybody's important. To Delta is important. Delta CEOs are important. The patients aren't. The doctors are not important. Those things aren't important. The accountability, the teamwork makes the dream work. Like you have to, at some point in time, you sit down and evaluate not just your employees, but everybody you work with, your financial advisors, your labs, whoever you work with. As long as they go with your core values, then that's a great fit still. So your children, unfortunately, are tied to you forever. So that's difficult.
That's weird that a financial advisor would know something nerdy like that. We're all shocked. Yeah, one of the important things about it's one thing to establish and have your list of core values, and we're not going to turn this into a core value lecture, but the one way to test whether or not you have conveyed this vision of what core values are is when you go to do your employee review, you would have them say, let's go down the core values and let's have you tell us what each core value means to you. And if they expound on something that's completely different than what you had come up with for your core value to mean, you have done a bad job at either they're, well, they could be that they're not paying attention too. That is a real thing. But it probably means we need to convey the vision better so that they understand how they're being graded, what the culture that you're trying to create is, and get everybody on board. And these really have the power to do that if the tool is utilized correctly.
Awesome. Core values are super important. So we help establish some of those core values, define what they mean for the practices. Again, one of the things we use at our work, this is Beth, one of our hygienists. She got the Laser Vision Award that week, which means she was focused on whatever it was that the kids recognized, the team recognized. The kids. They're kids to me, right? So laser vision, and then Beth would take next week. So during the week, she's got the trophy in her office. The docs are going in there and being like, you see Beth's trophy? She's awesome. She's got laser vision. And then she's looking for a core value that gets, demonstrated by somebody that week to then award another core value trophy the next week. So we do this every week as part of building culture within the practice. We also have pamphlets that we use when we hire and interview employees. This is like, these are our core values at Wood River Dental. Questions are kind of based around like, are they a good fit for our core values? Skills we can teach, core values you can't. You got to find somebody who lines up with your core values, but you need to have them defined and written down what they are. I was telling Ryan, we interviewed today, podcasted, like, I don't remember the last time we hired somebody. Like our turnover at the practice has been so low the last couple of years, like other than the new hygienist, but like we really have not lost a lot of team members. Our turnover has been great. And I think part of that is the culture at the practice, like the teamwork, the things that we do there, they really install a great place to work with the practice. So.
Well, we're all doing that, so we'll just be calling.
Yeah. Core focus. Core focus is another thing we help each practice focus on. This is Wood River Dental's core focus. We're a small town practice with world-class care. It's just where your niche meets your passion. So, number 4 is setting waypoints. Now that we know where we want to go, we know our baseline, we know our core values. Now we need to set some waypoints along the way. Where do we need to be 10 years? Where do we need to be 3 years from now? Where do we need to be a year from now? And then where do we need to be next quarter? So these are important parts along the way. This is a map of a hike Annalee and I did a few years ago, 2 years ago. It was a 60-mile hike in 4 days. So we mapped it out, and we had to have waypoints. We every day we had to summit a 10,500-foot pass, and every day we had to find a new lake to camp at. So charting the course and then marking waypoints made all the difference. Like today, this is the task that we have to do. We need to be there by tomorrow so that we can get to the end of the trek in the time allotted. And it's the same way with practices. Once you have that goal set, you need to work backwards. This is Dr. Austin Baker. Austin, when we sat down with Austin, did his BHAG and mapped out where he wanted to be with his practice, he was the one that was like, wow, I don't like my partner. I'm in a city that I don't like anymore, and I'm not doing the dentistry I want to be doing. And so he had a complete shift, like sold the practice back to the partner. He was in an 80-20 split. He owned 80% of the practice, the other owned 20. And he sold it back to the original doc and was like, we're going to move to Arkansas. Like, I don't want to be here in Idaho anymore. Want to move my kids away from here. So they mapped out a plan. We're going to go work 2 years for a DSO as an associate, and we're going to start putting in place the things we need to do to have our own practice, start up from scratch, and build towards that. So he completely took that information and then mapped out a route of like, I'm not where I need to be and not where I want to be. I'm not even at the right trailhead, headed to the right peak. I need to shift and move completely somewhere else and start over. So this was a great example of like mapping out the course, and then he's done a great job of working towards his new practice where he needs to be every year. So again, 10-year, 3-year, 1-year strategy. We help practices establish quarterly goals. I'll skip over this. Number 5 is marketing, mapping out a marketing strategy. So this is another thing where we work with practices to identify a good marketing strategy so that they know what patients they want to be working with at the practice. So once you establish what kind of dentistry you want to do, how do you then get the right person in your office? So how many of you are familiar with the marketing campaign Got Milk? It was like one of the world's biggest marketing campaigns ever, most successful. The Dairy Farmers of America put together this campaign, and it was awesome. In the 90s, like everybody had milk mustaches, from Stone Cold Steve Austin to famous actors, the Williams sisters in tennis, and everybody was doing this Got Milk, right? Campaign. It was super successful. Well, because it was so successful, the Dairy Farmers of America thought, we need to market this to the Hispanics. We need to market this same slogan out to the Latin population, right? So they took their Got Milk, translated it to Tienes Leche, and started another big push for marketing campaign. The one thing they failed to realize is that Tienes Leche, translated, really means, are you lactating? Right? It does not mean got milk in that way, right? It's like, do you have milk? Yes. Are you lactating? So needless to say, this was a failure of a marketing campaign, right? Wrong message to the wrong people. So in your dental practice, identifying like who your ideal target market is super important. Like Jared went over this really well with like patient value, like who are the patients you want in your practice? What kind of dentistry do you want to do? What does that person look like? Where do they shop? Where do they live? How much money do they make? How many kids do they have? Like, what is the ideal avatar for your patient in your practice? Who are you trying to bring into your office? If you're cosmetic heavy, what does that look like compared to other dental practices? Dan?
We were chatting about this at dinner, where you guys have a little bit different avatar, even though you target a similar market. Why are they different? And right, this was kind of interesting, and it's since I've got the microphone, I'll speak for each of you. But yeah, like why is it? There was a certain group of people. But there's a certain clientele that you are more inclined to gel with, right? Than what James was like. Sometimes these are frustrating. But who do you market to? Do you market to your avatar?
I market to anybody who will come see me. I market to anybody who will come. I go about it the way, and we'll talk about this a little bit tonight, but I market in the way I bring people in is through entertainment and connection, whereas James brings people in by influence of him and other people. And so it gets a totally different clientele. It really does. So
yeah, but I love that you guys knew who your avatar. In talking with you, you guys know immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always said the best patient's the one that pays, right? That's like
yeah, right, exactly.
But in reality is we do have a target, and there is someone. You guys, I think, have done. I'm hoping you guys touch on that tonight, so you can expound a little bit on this idea of the avatar, the ideal patient.
We're not going to touch a lot on that, but we can go on a side. Let me add it real quick.
Now.
Let me add it real quick.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Making sure you identify who you're trying to market to. Super important. Making sure you get the right patients through the front door. And we're really doing a marketing strategy that helps you find the right people. So this is Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith was, he's an interesting case study as well. He was our associate at the practice for 2 years. We love Nick. funny story with Nick, though, along with the BHAG, is as an associate, we were trying to help Nick establish a BHAG. Like, what kind of dentistry do you want to be doing? Where do you want to live? What do you want to have? And he had such a hard time doing it because of one reason. Nick wanted to get married. He wanted to find the girl of his dreams, have a family. Like, that was the priority. It wasn't like the practice. He's like, I can't even think about that until I get this done. And so Dan, in his wisdom, was like, okay, Dan, okay, Nick, tell me what she looks like in your dreams. Like, had her describe it just like the perfect practice, right? She's blonde, petite, thinking about family with like 3 kids, super cute, all these things, right? So Dan photoshops Nick's face on this gorgeous little blonde family, right? Cute little petite blonde wife, 3 kids, just gorgeous. And he sticks it on his desk. And he sticks it up there and he's like, here's your BHAG. And lo and behold, if Nick didn't manifest this, right? Looking at that picture every day, all of a sudden Nick's telling us like, hey, I found this girl up in Washington, cute, has 3 kids. One's a 3-year-old boy, and she has 2 twin daughters, 6 months old, all blonde, cute, right? So he marries her, moves to Moses Lake, right? And it's just such a great dream of like, it made me pull out my vision board. I'm like, I got to rework this. Stick it up there, right? Like, just super fantastic about how that happened. I don't know, but like, she looks almost identical to the girl in the picture, and now he's got 3 beautiful kids, and he's learning how to be a dad, right? Yeah, it was crazy. Crazy, like the super great thing on visualization and BHAG. But now that he's got that out of his way, he's starting to focus on who he wants to work with in his practice. He's working at a practice right now that does a lot of Medicaid and a lot of pediatric, and that's not his favorite type of work. And so he's had to go back and be like, I need to attract a different type of patient in my office. Like, I don't like doing the Medicaid, and I don't like seeing kids. Like, some docs do and do a fantastic job, but he's like, I don't. So he's worked with offloading some of those Medicaid patients and the pediatric side to the other dentists that's there, and he's working on establishing like, what are my ideal patients I want to see in my practice, and he's working towards building that. But that was an important exercise for him to like, who do I want to have in my office now that I'm working towards my BHAG? So, but again, he manifested like a beautiful family, which was awesome. So super happy for Nick. Again, identifying what that person looks like, what's their age, gender, income level, insurance, are they self-pay, like all of those things. And then how do we strategize? Again, we're not marketers, but at least a good strategy of like, if you're looking for this person, these are some things you can do. Here's some ideas and guidelines. If you're fishing for bass, don't go to the trout stream, right? You're not going to find any bass. Stick where you know. So what makes your office unique and special? And what's your proven process and your guarantee for your patients? Dr. Robin Call, same thing out of Surprise, Arizona. Who's Robin Call's ideal patient? Self-pay cash patient. She hates insurance patients because, again, Delta reimbursement rates are terrible. Age between 26 and 45. Household income $80,000 to $120,000. Patients are family-oriented, value health and wellness, appreciate high-quality, patient-centered environment that emphasizes comfort and technology. They typically discover RGC dentistry through online searches or referrals and prefer communication via text or phone. Doctor Call's patients stand out. Practice stands out through its focus on patient connection and holistic thorough care. So that's kind of who she is and who she's looking for, right? Number 6, putting together your team, roles and responsibilities. If you're going to have a successful summit, you got to have a strong team. Who are you tying yourself in with and trying to move forward? So Annalie and I, like I said, we had the opportunity last year. We spent almost 3 months in Africa with the foundation. And we got some time in between Dan bringing a group down and Jared bringing a group down, these wonderful people from Colorado. We got some time to go out and explore Tanzania a little bit. And we went to this place called the Tarangire National Park. The other name for Tarangire is Elephant Paradise. So it is a kind of an elephant sanctuary. There were thousands and thousands of elephants. It was crazy. Like, it took us a little while to find the first one, but by the end of the trip, we're like, man, I wish this elephant would just get out of the road so that we could see a gazelle or something, because like there were just so many elephants. And they told us an interesting story about the elephants, which I liked and is related to building a good team. It was when a new elephant's born, the mother is having the baby. All the other elephants stand in a circle around the birthing mother. And when the baby's born, each one of the elephants touches trunk to trunk with the new baby, like welcoming it to the herd and establishing a relationship with the new elephant. And every time we hire a new employee at the office, you're not just hiring a new employee, but you're establishing like 12 or 13 or 15 new relationships within your practice, because that employee is going to have a relationship with every one of your other employees. So it's important that you're hiring the right people, because as they come on your team, that's going to affect, everyone in your office. So making sure you have the right people and that they're supportive and working towards, the goals together, super critical. Accountability charts. How many of you have some kind of an accountability chart at your office? Who reports to who? Who's responsible for what? Some of you do. These are super important. Like, again, there's another story that's about somebody, everybody, anybody, and nobody. It's a great story. It's about a busy dental practice that had an important job to do. And everybody was sure somebody was going to do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did. Somebody got mad at everybody. Everybody thought anybody could have done it, but nobody did. In the end, somebody was mad with everybody because nobody did what anybody could have done, right? Does this sound like your dental office? Like, if you don't have anybody assigned, right, and responsible for who's going to do the work and making it everybody's job, then nobody does it, right? Like making sure you've outlined who's responsible for what within your practice. Deciding or taking a quiz whether you're a visionary and an integrator. Jared talked a little bit about this in his talk. Jared is very heavy visionary. Dan has visionary and integrator, and I am solid integrator, like when we took the quiz. Like, it's an interesting practice to do, just to recognize, like, where are your focuses? Visionaries solve big, complex problems. They're idea generators, great leaders, optimistic, create a vision. An integrator identifies and articulates problems, makes the best ideas reality. Great managers, realistic, and execute the vision. So Traction talks about rocket fuel, which is where you have a combination of a visionary and an integrator within your practice. So again, finding out which one you are and finding your counterpart in your business is an important process. Creating a leadership team, not a dictatorship at your office. How do you do that? So we work with practices on that. Getting the right people in the right seats. Identifying what your practice needs are, where you're trying to move towards, and then delegating out the responsibilities. Who's in charge for each of these roles and responsibilities within the practice? Just like Jared mapped out, what are the roles of a CEO and listed those responsibilities? What are the responsibilities in your practice and who's in charge of those? Elevation by delegation, great exercise to when you're at your capacity. What jobs do you delegate to your employees? This is Dan Mercy. So Dan is in Sugar House, Utah. Dan practiced with his father for a few years. His dad just retired last year, and Dan bought the entire practice from his dad. So his dad did a lot of things old school, as most older dentists do, and didn't have an accountability chart or the roles and responsibilities kind of identified and put out. So Dan has done an absolute fantastic job of taking his big team and mapping out a great accountability chart. He's got all of his people in the right seats, and everybody knows what they're responsible for within the practice. So he has 15 plus employees at his practice, runs a great practice, and has done a great job of creating accountability charts within his practice. Employee evaluations. It's another area where we spend some time working with docs on how to evaluate their employees based on core values, roles and responsibilities, and their goals. So keeping your team fired up. Again, we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, like slowing down, the principle of slowing down to speed up. The important meetings that you need to have with your team. Having at least a good weekly meeting with your team for an hour is super critical. Like, even though it may seem counterproductive to take that time to away from production in your schedule, but to take that time and get on the same page with everybody and have a more effective week is super critical. If you can slow down for 1 hour, get everyone on board, and then the other 39 hours in the week that you work are much more productive. Things not falling through the cracks. So if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. Morning huddles. This is kind of the daily check-in with your team. How many of you do morning huddles at your practices? Okay, this is great. Like, for us, this is like, it's one thing to get a report or a baseline report that shows you where your deficiencies are. But one good thing about a morning huddle is it allows you to identify opportunities that are coming in today and how not to miss them. So if your perio is a problem, but you've got a way of identifying potential perio patients on your morning huddle that you can look at and be like, oh, these are some patients that might need some additional treatment. Or your reappointments poor, allows you to focus on who we didn't reappoint yesterday, who we can reappoint today, who owes you money coming in the practice today. But taking a few minutes just to do a morning huddle is fantastic, Maren.
So I'm a lowly assistant at the practice. And most people, obviously the staff knows that I'm the wife. I know. But most of the patients don't. But anyway, so I'm part of the morning huddles every morning. And it is shocking how much accountability every person takes when suddenly that patient's name comes up on the screen in our morning huddle and it's like no reappointment. And you're like, and every person, we're all kind about it, but we're like, crap, that was me. I'll call the patient. Like, there's an immediate reaction to that. And also because we've worked on being a team, it's kind. It's funny sometimes. And most of us are like, oh, thank heavens, it wasn't me, but it creates quite a bit. It's the accountability, the camaraderie, we all get together. Anyways, it's one of my favorite things.
Just to share an anecdote about the effectiveness of this. So recently we noticed that our reappointment rate was good, like it was high, but we knew it could be higher. And we said, why aren't the hygienists up here in our morning huddle? Why don't we have representation from the hygiene team? Because they were always like, oh, we need to go set up. And we're like, you know what? No, you don't. Come to the meeting. And from the time that we went before compared to when they were after they started coming, we saw a 2 to 3. We went from 90 to somewhere in that realm to more like 98% reappointment because the accountability was there just by doing that one thing. It didn't take any more time. Nothing changed. Didn't cost us any more money. All we did was move the right people into the accountability realm. So pretty cool stuff. Morning huddles work.
Yeah, we had a terrible reappointment rate of 92%. It was awful.
But even that helped a ton. And again, like Maren said, just getting everybody rolling in the same direction every day, looking for those opportunities, low-hanging fruit, x-rays that need to be done, Patients need to be reappointed. That's where a lot of the magic happens. If you can have a good day every day, it's, 4 good days or 5 good days is a great week. 4 good weeks is a great month. 3 good months is a great quarter, so on and so on. So a lot of it comes back to the day-to-day, right? Weekly level 10 meetings. We use, some software that runs through a level 10 meeting that allows us to have effective meetings within the practice. We spend a lot of time in this section of a meeting, issues and IDS. We try to spend most of our time solving problems as a practice. And level 10 meetings are a great way to do that. So we help practices establish level 10 meetings. Quarterly planning, again, every quarter we set goals for our practice. Every employee has a metric that they're responsible for, and then that helps us keep on track for our yearly goal. Yearly planning sessions with practices. We use software called Bloom Growth. It's the original Traction software. So it takes all of the principles from Traction and puts it in software, which is fantastic to use. So. And then number 8, just the final one, support and collaboration. That's what this is all about here, is being a member of EA and getting some support outside of your practice. Again, it provides help when you're working with like-minded professionals. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Quote from Jim Rohn that I love. So getting in a room like this with other people and your friends as well at home, it's important to be around people who inspire you and give you motivation. This is from Dr. Jason Campbell, just a testimonial from him. Just want to say thanks to all the guys at Elevation Association. Love the camaraderie of the group, not to mention the fun adventures we've shared together. We all need mentorship and a platform to learn and grow, and you guys have done a great job providing a solution in settings that are hard to beat. Looking forward to Belize, seeing everyone again, especially glad to be bringing my wife, having the opportunity to get to know other spouses. Keep up the good work. One of the reasons that keeps Jason coming to events is the camaraderie. He loves coming and associating with other dentists. And Jason has always got like great nuggets of wisdom to share with everybody. And that's what, Elevation Association is all about. It's in the name, right? From our association, we elevate each other. That's what we want to be about. So coming and enjoying these activities is great. I'll meet with practices either on a weekly or monthly basis if that's something they want to work with towards establishing these leadership principles, these Elevation Association operating system. Some offices we meet on a weekly basis, others we check in once a month, whatever they would like to do. We do monthly CE webinars. Is another way to stay plugged in. Every second Tuesday, we do a webinar to provide some free CE and just to get, again, the group together to discuss that. We're putting together monthly mastermind meetings. Currently have one going right now, and then we're going to add some other ones to that. So if you're interested in that, get with Jared on those. And we've started to do weekend base camps occasionally. This was a fantastic idea we did up in Montana last year in September. Leighton got a group together at a cabin for a weekend. Jeff was there, Kurt was there, and we had a great time with the docs. One of the cool things we found with Jeff being there was how cool it was to have a specialist in the room. Because the specialist, for him, the customer is the dentist. And so it allowed some great conversation between a specialist and his referring docs or people that he was working with. And so we've duplicated this model. We just had one up in Island Park 2 weeks ago, where we went snowmobiling. We had an endodontist there, also bringing a group of his docs that he refers to, or that refer to him. We had some fun snowmobiling, did some CE. He provided his docs with some value from the CE that we provide, and we had a great time, and it was fantastic. So if there's any specialists that want to put together a base camp, or we can come out, share some CE, give your docs some CE credit and have a fun weekend, let us know. We would love to do that. We got one coming up in Prescott, Arizona in April. We're doing another one in Montana in August this year. So if that's something you'd like to be a part of or in one of the areas, let us know. Great way to have some camaraderie. We're doing a leadership outfitting course in the end of May. So in this course is a 2-day CE heavy. So you'll come to the Sun Valley for 2 days, and we will walk you through all of these steps. We'll put together your BHAG. We'll help you with your core values. We'll help establish an accountability chart for your practice. It's very heavy CE for 2 days. This will be the first one we'll do this May. So we're looking forward to this as kind of a high-intensity course where you'll come in 2 days of putting all this stuff together for you. And when you leave, you'll leave with a pretty good comprehensive business plan for your practice. Annual summits like this, great time to come in and collaborate, have some fun, bring your spouse. And again, the magic happens a lot of times outside of this room when you're on the beach or you're on a surfboard, those kind of things when you're at the practice. Humanitarian opportunities. Those of you who have been to Africa, we're so appreciative. And if any of you are interested in coming to Africa, we have 2 trips coming up this year. We're end of April, first week in May, we're going to go with Mark Costas' group. We're going to take them back down to Africa, and then we're going again in October. So if any of you are interested in joining us, either of those weeks would be great. October would be fantastic. A lot of cool things happening there. Just to end, leadership like mountaineering is a journey that requires vision, preparation, teamwork, resilience. By defining your summit, assessing your starting point, aligning your core values, setting clear goals, strategizing your path, clarifying roles, sustaining motivation, and leveraging collaboration, you can lead your team to achieve extraordinary success. Just as every climber reaches the peak by taking one deliberate step at a time, great leadership is built upon intentional action that inspire, guide, and elevate those around you. Together we ascend. And just to close, I love this quote, Do the Thing, which is a little essay by The Strangest Loop. If there's been something that stood out to you this weekend or this week, something that you felt like inspired to go back and do, I think this is great advice, whether it's, estate planning or whether it's, something at your business or your practice or something in your personal life with your spouse. I love this thing. It's called Do the Thing. It says, preparing to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Scheduling time to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Making a to-do list for the thing isn't doing the thing. Telling people you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Messaging friends who may or may not be doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Writing a banger tweet about how you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on other people who have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Fantasizing about the adoration you'll receive once you do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how other people did the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading this essay isn't doing the thing. The only thing that's doing the thing is doing the thing. So if you've had something that's inspired you this week, go do it. Go do the thing, whatever it might be. Put it into practice, whether it's a leadership principle, again, estate planning, or your personal life. Just do it. So, some upcoming events, Sun Valley Outfitters Course, May 30th through 31st. Again, Arizona, 10th through the 12th. Dentist Advisor Summit, June 20th through 21st. And DLF trip, April, May, and in October. So if you want to join any of that, get with us, let us know. Thank you.